green afternoon, green evening. Hearty welcome to all our brothers and sisters across the world from the different countries, from the different continents, in the different time zones, wherever you are. We extend you a very hearty welcome this morning, this afternoon, this evening, because simultaneously a lot of operations have to be done when you're dealing with this session, particularly when it is on artificial intelligence in our day-to-day life. So let me post namaskar first to everybody on the YouTube channel, on the GS Motivator, so that people can log in and they can come. So ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome this morning as far as America is concerned, this afternoon post lunch as far as Europe is concerned, and this evening, namaskar in Bharat to everybody. It's a proud privilege. It's a distinguished morning, afternoon, and evening, and a very powerful because today is 697th webinar of ours during this pandemic, during this coronavirus. From 25th of March onward, when there was a complete lockdown, doctors, nurses, paramedical people, great warriors, they've done the great job. But at the same time, teachers, educators, principals, headmasters, and at the same time, sector skill councils for skills, competencies, and capabilities, they've also done a great job. And on the top of everybody, it is the technocrats, those made sure that the digital learning, flip learning, blended learning, outside classroom learning, that should be on all the time and nobody is deprived. Although the figures from the UNESCO is 1.65 billion children, they were away from schools, colleges, universities, institutions, polytechnics, ITIs, and other couple of verticals where we talk about the education at all levels. Now the things are improving, but again, there are a couple of concerns in couple of states, couple of countries, as far as the coronavirus impact, which has still not got completely over. In Punjab, the cases have got increased. In Maharashtra, the cases have got increased, and a couple of other places also when we talk about. However, let's see the bright side, futuristic side, pragmatic side, and forward-looking side. Because earlier I was talking about Alan Toffler's future shocks. Now let me talk about future roadmap. We extend a very warm welcome this morning from America, this afternoon from Europe, and this evening from Bharat to Sri Krishna Shankar Narayananji. He is the Director, Global Digital Transformation, Executive Sugar Land, Texas, United States, USA. It's a privilege. It's a proud privilege. I had a little discussion with him yesterday evening over telephone. I found him very warm, down to earth, very practical, very pragmatic, very futuristic, and having emotional bond with India. And then, of course, ladies and gentlemen, yours own Dr. Vivek Shankar Natarajan, to whom you meet every Sunday in the morning from America, afternoon from Europe, and in the evening from Bharat. Dr. Vivek Shankar Natarajan, Professor of Marketing, Lamar University, Texas. We are grateful to him for taking this series forward. So I was telling during the pandemic, like doctors, nurses, and paramedical people are the great warriors. Our teachers and the entire education ecosystem, all people, those are in different verticals, they are also great warriors. So let's move while giving our salutations to them. Coming from the armed forces background, I send my salutations, regards, greetings, gratitudes to all of them. And it was a proud privilege that from the Army to the Ministry of Tourism, and from the Ministry of Tourism to the NRIs, from the NRIs to the complete confluence of services sector, corporate, and of course now final destination when I talk about the journey onward with the biological clock, only and only one mission: how to make education relevant. When we are going with that pedagogy, ladies and gentlemen, on 29th of July, in the thick of pandemic, the Honorable Prime Minister of India, along with his entire team, and the Education Minister of India, they gave the new Education Policy 2020, which has come after 34 years in India. And today, we are going to talk about technology and future of education. Some of the some of the packaging which has been done post corona, last week the findings have come. It's a very important statement which I'm going to make now. Whatever India was to do in next year in education, it has done in 10 months in education, because pandemic came like a tsunami and there was no choice left over then just to go by and to adapt and adapt. And no compromises on that. And everybody had put in their best of efforts. We are proud of all of them. Right. Let's move in the journey. International Chamber for Service Industry, which is for market research, policy advocacy, innovative strategies, consultancy, and training from time to the Government of India, various verticals, various ministries. At the same time, the confluence of our brothers, sisters across the globe in different continents, non-resident Indians, Indian diaspora, and leading Indian corporate. And as we told you, we are focusing on making education relevant, Monday to Sunday, no breaks. India believes that there is a Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, the world is one family, all of us we are same. This is the education policy I was talking about. So the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, and Honorable Education Minister of India, Dr. Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank ji, and all other dignitaries, new education policy 29th July onwards, that is 2020. Now, what is the game change with this new education policy? Policies are made every day. There are so many policies which are being made, and some of the research people say we have done PhD. I might have done the PhD 35 years back, but today when I look at it, I don't deserve to be a compounder what to talk of Dr. Gulshan Sharma, because it doesn't hold much of relevance. It has become obsolete, and a lot of changes have taken place. So thereby, continuous upgradation, continuous learning, relearning, reskilling, uplearning, all that is a part. And something amazing is coming right from the 6th class onward. Children will be learning now the coding. They'll be going to the corporate and 10 days backless school. Education got to be relevant to our day-to-day life. Unless it is not relevant, the purpose doesn't get solved. Theoretically, we may keep doing a lot of research papers, publish this, publish that. That's of no use. What is the need of the hour is practical, on ground, whatever I'm teaching in education, what relevance does it hold to my day-to-day life? Youth empowerment, when we talk about. Now over here, I think it's very important, but more than youth empowerment, with the new education policy, it's teacher empowerment. The other day, I had a webinar with one of the leading experts from Australia. It was a mind-blowing. He talked about education was earlier teaching centric. Then it became learning centric. Then the teacher role became as a facilitator. Now, what is the role of teacher now? It's a co-learner. The new definition is it's a co-learner, because technology is going to play such an important role. Way back when I look at in 1994, we brought from our chamber India's first finishing school and finishing lab. And we were talking about etiquettes, manners, gesture, body language, personality, articulation, creative thinking, critical thinking, logical thinking, analytical thinking, out of the box thinking, anything you can talk about on this planet. And the most important is hard skill and soft skill. When you talk about, you can make a product, but if you don't have good communication skills, you cannot sell that product. So communication skill is one of the most important skill which we have to take care of. And then, am I taking education only for my living, or is it a purpose that there's a life journey and there's a life skills? We'll talk about it. Honorable Finance Minister of India, she gave the 6 pillars of the Union Budget 2021, and pillar number 4 is next to the heart, reinvigorating human capital. These are the key reforms for education sector in budget 2021. 1st of February, the budget was announced, and today is the last day of February. You would be happy to know all 27 days, no other deliberation except education, budget, and implementation. These three things we are talking about. Optimum utilization of technology and the social media in education, empowering youth, empowering teachers, and holistic education, again, very important for us. Education is incomplete without skills. Now, from skills, we have moved to competencies. From competencies, we have moved to capabilities. In your own dictionary, in your own time, kindly go through and see what is the difference between skill, competencies, and capabilities. You will come to know, relate to some examples. But still, it is incomplete because when I talk about my great friend to whom I lost a couple of months back, Sir Ken Robinson, excellent soul as far as education policy preparation is concerned. Whenever I used to sit and talk, it was always there's a purpose of education. Parents expect, when are you completing your education? When are you going to earn some economic value of education, cultural value of education, social value of education? And the last is movie called Three Idiot. What is my personal purpose of education? Why am I studying this subject? So still it is incomplete if I have got education and skills, but I don't have an output. So read out the latest report of the Deloitte and a couple of other corporate houses. What is going to be the situation in 2025? It's going to be very, very alarming, and world is heading towards very difficult times. What education? Where education? For whom education? What kind of education? 1.6 billion loan children have taken for their university education in US alone. Indian students, horde of them going abroad. And when they are going, they are doing part-time job. There are two kinds of students. One, those are serious. Second, I have to settle abroad. I'm just interested to settle abroad, do some part-time job, take a degree, and settle down over there. And the other day, there was a wonderful deliberation. We will take it on further. 12 hours, our chamber is doing the beaming across. We are touching all continents every day. Can you believe it? We are touching all continents every day because our different verticals from different locations, they are doing the beaming. Today also, we started the program at 9:30 in the morning and we finish at 9:30 tonight. Now, when I'm talking about, yes, this is done. This is what we have taken the agenda in 2021, teachers and youth empowerment. And this is the complete confluence what we have got, Atmanirbhar Bharat. And that's the vision of Honorable Prime Minister. And on 15th of August, we propose to submit a blueprint to the Honorable Prime Minister of India and the Education Minister of India. What exactly is the future roadmap when the implementation of the new education policy 2020 is taking place? We are doing almost 28 webinars per week. So per se, it's about 4 webinars per day. Then it makes 28 per week. We started this morning, one of the legend of the management education. When you talk to him, when you sit with him, when you understand his knowledge, his wisdom, he's a gold medalist from India. He's the youngest gentleman who was teaching in India, and he went to America and Harvard, Wharton, Stanford, and you talk about a couple of things. First, PhD in education. Second, PhD, Buddhism. Recipient of the Best Management Teacher Award, America. 3 times he tried. I'm meeting him for last 20 years. And whenever I meet him, there's something interesting to learn from him. I'm grateful to Vivek Shankar Natarajanji that he put me to the gentleman in Coimbatore who was in America earlier. Wonderful person. Similar way, I'm thankful to God that when I met Professor Satendra Dhiman this morning, every Sunday, and we both have taken a pledge. We are planning to open e-Gurukul, where free education to all those children whose parents cannot afford education. We will provide device also. We'll give the connectivity also. And within 3 years, we are going to set up the whole system, nobody to be ashikshit. but his concern is journey from Vidya to Adhyatam Vidya, an integrative series of, and nowadays we are doing Srimad Bhagavad Gita and 10 Principle Upanishad, where he is talking about what is the purpose of education, why there is so much of suffering, why there is so much of pain. So we started at 9:30 with him in the morning. We finished at 11 o'clock. 12:30 we started this program, Waste to Resource Management. This is, I'm talking about Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. Every Sunday, this is the schedule of our chamber. So Sunday, second program, that is 28th of February today. And there's another lady who has joined from today, proud of her, Apurva Mahajan. Thereafter, 3 o'clock, entire northeast part of India. It's next to the heart and vision and spirit and soul of Honorable Prime Minister of India. And he calls it Ashtalakshmi. And we brought these youngsters today and we talked about women empowerment with education, focusing the northeast part of India. We moved from there to the next program, 5 p.m. this evening. We had MSME, micro, small, and the medium enterprise. And I'm proud to share with all of you, the global fraternity, wherever you are. Our chamber worked 3 years very hard to prepare the complete roadmap, action plan, and the strategy, how service industry to be taken at par with the manufacturing sector in India through the Ministry of Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprise. I'm proud of Shri Rabindranath ji, former CMD of the NSIC, that is national. When you talk about the industry corporation, when I'm talking about small scale industries, he was the chairman and MD when I had been meeting him. And now post retirement, he has joined our chamber. He's the chairman of the Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprise. Today he brought second program, another program, although this was 13th program on MSMEs with him, but we discussed about what is to be done in Northeast India for the entrepreneurship. And thereafter, ladies and gentlemen, India is going to celebrate 75 years of its independence next year. Our journey has already started. 38,000 warriors lost their life from North India, and similar when I talk about the eastern part, the West Bengal, and then rest of the places when I talk about. So one of the freedom fighters, Mahan Swatantrata Sainani, we have taken the agenda, and every Sunday we have been taking, today was the fourth program of his, but from next Saturday, his program, his series will be every Saturday at 8 p.m. because Sunday load is getting reduced and we are working out, and there's a new program is coming on demand because now people are asking this freedom fighter program, people would like to see from overseas also. So instead of 6:30, it will be done at 8 p.m. and it will be done on Saturday evening. As a part of the budget, the Honorable Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman ji, she announced 100 Sainik schools setting up. So we are deliberating Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 4 days. Armed forces officers, Army, Navy, and Air Force, they all are coming and they are deliberating and they're sharing their vision, what kind of a Sainik schools to come up in India. And I'm proud, coming from the armed forces, my brother officers are giving a lot of inputs. Now, next week from tomorrow is a very important week for the entire universe. I have mother, I have daughter, I have sister, I have daughter-in-law, I have granddaughter, and anything you talk about, and particularly in the education ecosystem, a lot of ladies are doing wonderful job. So 8th of March is International Women Day, and our chamber is celebrating the entire week International Women Week celebrations. And every evening, 8 to 9 p.m., you'll have a special program which will be done from tomorrow till next Monday. Tomorrow is Monday, till next Monday, 8 days you will have this program. And if I share with you Western India, Southern India, Northern India, Eastern India, school students, college students, wellness therapies, and international wellness therapies all being taken care of. On 7th of March, there is a special program which is coming up with regard to music for education. It will be remarkable. That is what we are planning to work out. Now, Monday, 1st of March, that is tomorrow evening, you will see all of them. Ladies in armed forces, ladies in judiciary, ladies in police, ladies in education, ladies in media entertainment, ladies everywhere you will have. And tomorrow will be the program which will be taken by Amrita Dudia from Rajasthan. She will be joining us from Jodhpur, mind coach, inspirational speaker, and entrepreneur. This way, every evening at 8 p.m., we are bringing a special program for all of us. So, ladies and gentlemen, whatsoever human mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. How artificial intelligence is going to be used extensively in education, we are going to deliberate on that. Future of education, how artificial intelligence is going to be the game changer. And this morning from America, this afternoon from Europe, and this evening from Bharat, we are going to talk about artificial intelligence. Couple of thought processes comes to mind before we move on today's program. Why do we talk about artificial intelligence? Why don't we talk about human intelligence? Anyway, we will talk about it because artificial intelligence also being developed by human intelligence only. Will artificial intelligence ever overtake human intelligence? That is also a concern. Okay, initially in education, health, agriculture, other fields, but slowly and gradually when we talk about it, the concern is going to be that as far as small population countries are concerned, it's fine. But the countries which have got large population, they have got their own challenges. We will talk about it. So ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming and extending a very hearty welcome to Shri Krishnan ji and Dr. Vivek Shankar Natarajan ji this morning from America and this afternoon from Europe and this evening from Bharat. Hardik swagat hai aapka. Hearty welcome to you and thank you very much for getting up that early in the morning over there. I can see a lot of literature, a lot of treasure and a lot of books at the back of your backdrop. That's something is very innovative. So I would request Vivek Shankar Natarajan ji to take on the session further and we should introduce Shri Krishnan ji and we start today's program.
Good morning, Suprabhatam to all of us here in the US and Subha Sayankalam or good evening to folks in India. So it's the last day of February. This has been a very interesting month, especially for those of us who live in Texas. Last week was a very challenging week. As we all know, we had cold storms and Texas is supposed to be the energy capital of or the energy state, but we had to depend only on our energy. We had to literally be Atmanirbhar to keep ourselves warm and and so it was a very interesting week. But this week things look very sunny and going forward we are looking more optimistic. So it's a good time to have the Sri Krishnan, Dr. Krishnan Shankar Narayanan with us on this program. Krishnan ji is, if I may say, a man of with a lot of diverse experience. Diverse experience meaning multiple ways. He comes from a very traditional family, but having said that, he has spent a lot of his formative years in Europe. Got a degree, undergrad and master's from Netherlands in chemical engineering, Delft University. Then came over across the pond, so to speak, across the Atlantic, came to US, got a PhD from Princeton University, also has an MBA. So from an educational perspective, very, very diverse, multiple countries, multiple disciplines. He has also worked heavily in various oil, in some of the big companies in energy, ExxonMobil, Shell, and now he's working for SABIC. Exxon is an American company. Shell has typically has roots in Europe, and I mean it's kind of more global. and Sabik is from out of Saudi Arabia again. So point I'm trying to make is he has a diverse work experience and he has diverse educational experience, and now his area of expertise is digital transformation. And of course, one of the pitfalls of whenever we have something like this is everybody will say they are an expert, but the problem is a lot of it is you become an expert only when you put the rubber to the road. And from it's very evident from his job description and what he is doing is really a man who he has his hands literally dirty getting things done, because transformation is not a easy thing. He's a change leader. He's big on making bringing artificial intelligence into energy industry. That's not easy. And so with that comes a lot of experience. As they say, we can get a lot of knowledge, but only with experience you get the wisdom. And I'm sure that is where we need to hear from people like Krishnan ji about what is the future of AI, and what are the pitfalls, what are the opportunities, especially for those youngsters who are looking to embrace this as a choice of career. So that is the focus of this webinar. We are here to make our education relevant, especially in the context of emerging technologies like AI or digitization or digital transformation. Whatever it is, we want to be congruent with what is happening in the world. And we can do that only when we hear from people who are out in the field, people who are getting their hands dirty and getting things done. And to that extent, I think we are very fortunate to have Krishnanji. And all it took was just one phone call, and he was said, "I'll be happy to do it." So I'm so grateful. And for those people who are Princeton University, just as alma mater, that's where Albert Einstein taught. So that is a level at which Krishnanji has worked to get a PhD out of Princeton. It's not easy to get into those Ivy Leagues and get a PhD out of it. So he's a man of tremendous accomplishments, but he's also a man with great humility, and so he's a very grounded person. And I think we are in for a treat when Krishnanji is going to be taking the floor. So without much ado, I request Dr. Krishnan Shankar Narayanan. The floor is yours, sir. Please do educate us and enlighten us about the issues of AI and how it is relevant today, especially in the context of education and all that. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Natarajan and Dr. Sharma. So I'll be talking about AI and the role in education. But before we do that, I think we need to have an understanding of when did AI really start, and what is it, and what are the misconceptions about AI. So AI, it is not really new. The term was first coined, I would say, in the 50s. And it was meant as, I would say, to augment or to make things more automated and help people. Now, if you fast forward now to the 90s and the 2000s, obviously, a lot of popular media would show AI. Right? There are movies such as Terminator and Space Odyssey, where you have this thinking machine, and it is self-conscious. Now, that is potentially one type of AI. However, we are very far from that. Broadly speaking, what AI is, it is simply a way of augmenting human intelligence and making certain tasks easier by underlying mathematics. At the most basic level, and some of us have these devices now in our house, we have thermostats, for example, right? And we go to the thermostat and we set it when we are uncomfortable. And then the thermostat, it remembers what we're doing. It has some sensory perception, knows what the actual temperature is, it knows what you're setting it to. And then it learns from that okay, you like at certain times, you like to have a certain temperature. Maybe when you come back from office, when you get up in the morning, you like certain things. So it learns from that, and it gets very good at that task. So after a certain amount of time, you don't need to do anything anymore. It sets itself. Other parts of AI that you may have seen is, for those of you who have a smartphone like this, at some point it starts prompting you. It looks at your calendar and then it says, hey, you need to be getting to the office now because you have a meeting starting at 9 o'clock and the traffic is such and such. So that is another application of AI, but I would say it's one of the simple applications, very directed AI, where it is again one task, right? Is how do you get from A to B, and what is the best way, the fastest way to get there. Another more general AI is basically a collection of these. You're good, the machine is good at one task, and then it can get good at other tasks, right? So imagine you have a self-driving car, right? It has to do multiple kind of functions together and it can learn. The ultimate AI is something that is conscious. Now, the problem is we as humans don't even know how to define consciousness. So we are very, very far from that. We generally see these examples again in science fiction, and we get excited when a computer can beat a chess champion or a Go champion, but it's basically because the computer can do certain things faster and better. So I like to think about AI as augmented intelligence. Yes, it is artificial, but it's augmenting us and it is making us more effective and allowing us to focus on more creative tasks. If you think about it, the Industrial Revolution, it brought us machines, it brought us steam engine, and those basically took mundane tasks away from us. A lot of manual labor no longer needed to be done because we could have machines do it. And these are the things that allowed people to have more time to think about other tasks. What we tend to think is that artificial intelligence or augmented intelligence will free us from mundane mental tasks. And these can help us focus on more creative tasks. Now, how does this connect to education? If you think about it, I think all of us on this panel, we were educated some time ago. 10 years, 20, 30 years ago. I'm sure it's been a continuous process, but we had to physically show up in the classroom, take our books and come home, read the books, read the problems, and the teacher had to grade, and then we would have discussions in the class. If I look at the educational experience of my children, and I would say Corona has been both a curse and a boon, as Dr. Sharma also spoke to me yesterday and also this morning, it has allowed for the acceleration of certain trends. They sit in the study, they sit on their computer, sometimes on their phone, and they are accessing content. They are able to see their teacher teach live. They have the option of asking questions, assignments get delivered, assignments get graded even. And this is fascinating because over a very short period of time, how the student and teacher interact has changed drastically. And I would say technology has had a great role in that. Now the question may arise, why now? So all of this is part of digital transformation. And digital transformation is possible because we have so many cheap sensors, right? A sensor is anything that can measure anything. It can measure temperature. It's not very complicated to buy something that can measure temperature. It can measure humidity. It can measure whatever you want. You'll be able to find something. And these sensors, they're allowing for lots of data to be generated. And we can store the data. We can store the data very, very cheaply. The other thing is we can get the data from A to B very, very quickly. When I started my career, we used dial-up modems. And when I was traveling for work, okay, I want to know what emails have come. So I would hook up the computer, I would plug in the phone line. Several hours later, I would be able to look at my emails, but I had put the settings such that I would not want to download the whole email because it's just too much data. So I would see the first 3 lines, and then if I saw something that I needed to react on, I would try to download that one specifically. Today, we can download data incredibly quickly. In fact, yesterday, I upgraded the internet in my house to 400 Mbps, right? And now I can download anything I want very, very rapidly. And I'm trying to make sure that every hook and corner of my house has the same kind of experience. But data being transferred from A to B is no longer a big deal. Now, what is also happening today is the processing power that we have available to us, it is enormous. We can very, very rapidly compute things. In fact, this iPhone probably has more computing power than some of the computers that were used in early space missions to get satellites up in space or men on the moon. So we have the convergence of all of these three things. And that has really led to digitalization everywhere, the rise of artificial intelligence. And this is permeating every industry. In the past, we would have manufacturing, and you need to have certain core knowledge of certain processes. And different industries would behave differently. These days, what is happening is the whole business model is changing. Middlemen are coming out. You have direct customer interface. You know what they want. You can customize your plans, customize the experience for them. You get updates pushed to you. So we are really moving to, I would say, a knowledge kind of economy where knowledge and data is king. And this really accelerates artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence enables it. But also the differences that we used to have between different industries, they are rapidly disappearing. Because if you understand how the company is working on a digital level, ultimately it's about you are correlating an X and a Y, and you want to maximize Y by X. Well, this is the same. And you have to use certain algorithms for that, and then you implement it. The details, of course, are different, whether you are in chemical industry or energy, or whether you're a clothes manufacturing, of course, but that is at the level beneath that, but you can build tools on top of that. Now, getting back to artificial intelligence, how does it change the experience, and how can we really use it? Well, one thing, and I would say a perpetual student. Even now, I'm enrolled in courses just to advance my knowledge further. And I'm simply fascinated by it, because what we have now is a democratization of knowledge. We have the option to use educational platforms such as edX, Coursera, etc. They are available to most of the people in the whole world. And what they allow is, even if you don't have the funds to pay for a certificate, you can take these courses in audit. And because of this, you are able to obtain that knowledge and use that knowledge in either your studies. You may be a student and you want to get a different perspective on something. So you are able to do that. Or if you're a working professional, you can get that applied straight away in your job. You see the rise of micro masters, micro bachelor's degrees, certificates. And these really allow greater numbers of people to take part in the educational experience in different places. You are no longer restricted to educational institutions that are within commuting distance of your home. You can take something in a different country if you want, and you may benefit from it. But how does this all work? Well, there are multiple ways of doing this. There are certain models which are very close to the in-classroom experience. You get the lecture, you have to log in at a certain time. That mirrors it very much. There are other ones which are completely asynchronous. And these allow you to take it whenever you want. If you have 5 minutes, you can hear 5 minutes of a lecture, do some problems, etc. The interesting thing is that for a lot of these things, the initial grading is actually done by the machine. Some of these are multiple choice. Some of these actually, they have natural language processing built in for essay type of questions. And they understand the intent, and then they score you on that. And then the role of the teacher is to act as, I would say, an overseer of that process to see what happened. And what I'm also seeing in some of my nephews as they go to school and college, even though they're studying in the same schools that I studied in, the experience once again is different. They say, look, this lecture is, I can't go to the lecture, but they're posting the video. So I will listen to the video and I'll do the problems. Sometimes the professor himself or herself will say, look, here is a good video. It's taught by this professor. read that before, go online, check it out before you come to class. We'll have a discussion. And then do you agree or disagree with some of these things? So it is challenging and taking the mundane out of a lot of the activities that a teacher would have to do in terms of grading or going over perhaps basic concept, but the teacher is ready to jump in as necessary. So the mundane is coming out. And again, it's really augmented intelligence. It's not really artificial. Of course, there's a lot of math behind it, but it's really making life easier for everyone. And this democratization, I think this is absolutely key. The massive open educational experience, it is a boon. And I would say that during the last year, we have all started using these technologies to the maximum. I think if Corona had been there 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we would have a year which we can call the lost year. Now, it's, of course, a lot of things have been lost, right? And there's no way of making up, but we've been able to manage, we've been able to stay in touch. And just imagine, when I first came to this country, we used to scour these calling cards, because it's 1 cent cheaper to make an overseas call. And you have to punch in 20 numbers and then you'll be able to make that call. These days, it's WhatsApp, right? So technology and all these things, whether we know it or not, there's a lot of machine learning, there's a lot of AI to make these things possible. It may be a surprise to some people, but if you've ever used a GPS or Google Maps or MapQuest, there's AI in this, right? It's a classical problem, how to get from A to B. If you use a search engine, that is AI right there. And you can see these things, they're coming. So how can we really use these things, right? I think in education, we have to say, okay, what does society have to offer us? Where can I simply say, look, I am not very good at explaining, for example, this concept, but there's this other gentleman or lady who can explain it, go online and integrate in that way. And then when you come to class, let's have that deeper discussion about the material and then learn together. And I think, Dr. Sharma, you mentioned that earlier. This is extremely important about learning together. One is because technology is evolving so rapidly, nobody really knows the full story anymore. Of course, when you are maybe in primary school, when you're teaching that kind of material, the full story may be known. However, as you progress, and this is something we really also experience as we go to higher studies, at some point, the professors, they are facilitators, they are coaches. And I remember when I went to Princeton University, the dean and the chair of the department said, look, you enter as students, but you will leave as colleagues, right? Because you have undergone the learning. And then you will also be advancing the learning. And I would say that also my professor, Professor Sundaresan in Princeton, I owe him a lot. And always it was a dialogue. And I would come with a question and he would be open and say, look, I don't have the answer to this, but let's try to find out together. And I think this humility in learning is something that also needs to be there. The teacher is not infallible. The teacher is learning as well. But these kind of tools that we have at our disposal, they certainly can help. Now, where is the world really heading with AI, and how do we prepare ourselves for these kinds of things? At the heart of AI are things that we actually understand very well. It's mathematics, it's computer science. And I would say these are all the hard disciplines that Dr. Sharma, you also had referred to. Perhaps maybe 10, 20 years ago, we would focus more, perhaps unknowingly, especially if you are going the engineering route, you would focus more on calculus, those kind of disciplines. But for machine learning, suddenly you're dealing with so much data. And data science needs a lot of statistics, right? This is the other branch of mathematics, probabilities. So those are the foundations of all of these AI. And again, bringing these things together sooner to bear, making them relevant through examples is absolutely key to uplifting society and making this educational journey together. So there, of course, there is a way of jumping into, okay, I'm going to enroll into an AI course right now. The problem is after lecture 1 or 2, suddenly they start talking about matrix inversions and trace of matrix and all these things. So you need to go back and learn that. But I think if we have that eye on the target as we teach linear algebra, as we teach math, saying, look, you take this concept and then 5 steps later, you actually have AI, that is extremely beneficial. Similarly, you can actually introduce these concepts early on and just have that journey together and say, look, this is a concept and we're going to teach you the math to actually solve the problem. My son, he was in a workshop last year at Rice University, and I said, look, it's good if you actually focus on big data concepts and the machine learning there. Just learn, just go there, see how it is. You're in high school, but that's okay. I know you don't have the formal background, but I'm sure they'll break it down. And really what he did was he learned how to apply some code with a thermometer, to take an action. And that really inspired him to then go deeper into the underlying math. So I think this is always about how do you make education relevant to the day-to-day problems, right? We can take a completely hierarchical view saying, look, you need to finish this first, this layer, then this layer, then this layer. 5 years later, you'll be able to actually understand the AI. So, maybe you just give them a piece and say, look, to solve it, you need to know a little bit about this, a little bit about this. Here are some resources. Go and iterate on that, come back, and then you'll be able to solve your first problem. Once you solve that first problem, then you have that excitement. And then people want to go on and on and on and learn more, get deeper into this. And I think this is also how we have to structure the relationship within schools. Problem focused. I'm not saying we have to throw away fundamentals. You need fundamentals, but bringing the context to that and having that experiential learning. And one thing is also imparting people, one very important part of learning is actually the ability to make mistakes, recognize the mistakes, and then learn from the mistakes. So one thing is, what I've always told my son is, look, you can study for an exam or a course to learn, or you can study to score. What ideally you should do both, right? Because no point learning everything and then falling flat on your face during the exam, right? Then nobody will actually believe that you know anything, even if you do. But there's also no point just acing it, getting 100 and not understanding anything, because 5 days later you've forgotten everything. So these things have to go hand in hand. But if you plan things properly and you learn the material to learn, you will be willing to make mistakes. And once you got that out, then you are ready actually to go and take these kind of exams. But then you may also still need to fine tune your strategy of exam taking. But there I would also challenge the educational system is maybe we should, as educators, stress the learning, not simply the grading and the scoring of the students. And quite honestly, in every classroom, sometimes there are these absolute toppers and they understand the material, they'll score. There's another group who really understand, they may have even deeper knowledge, but for whatever reason, they are unable to get the 100. And then we pass over them. But lo and behold, 20 years later, those are the people who actually rose through the ranks and are leading the largest kind of innovations that we all need. And the people who scored the 100, you know what, they were good at scoring it, but they didn't really have that drive and passion to take it to the next level. So how we educate, I think, and how we use the AI, I think we have a huge number of possibilities for us. Now, how can this help India? So within digital transformation, which is what I'm leading, we work with a lot of companies. And I think it's no secret, a lot of the IT companies, big data, machine learning companies, there's a lot of companies in India. I think there is a huge advantage. That there is something about India that seems to be producing a lot of people who have this knack. And I'd say whatever we're doing there, we should continue. It's probably emphasis on these kind of hard traditional disciplines, mathematics, which help. And Dr. Sharma, you asked me a question yesterday, is India potentially missing the boat? I would say absolutely not. I'd say India is right in the middle of it, and can make this extremely successful, where you go to an AI-driven kind of economy. And the nice thing is you can participate in the economic success of other countries from your own country. And this is just amazing, because now you can provide value because you're building infrastructures, you're building the tools that allow other industries which may not even be physically in India to do that. And if people can do that being in one country, this is just amazing. So you can have your job where you're working for a company maybe in Texas, but you're sitting in Bangalore. That's just amazing. So I would say that as we always look, right, and we live in a global economy, we always look at a couple of things, right? One is cost. What is total cost? What is schedule? What is quality? And I certainly think that India has the ability to deliver on all three, right? It is just within the realm of possibilities to do that. And this is, I think, how we also have to look at the education and take another step back. And this is the good question you asked: why do we educate? What is the reason for educating? What is the reason for knowledge, right? I mean, we can take a philosophical bend and say that is the highest thing we should aspire to be enlightened. We can also take a more pragmatic perspective and say, look, I need to have food on the table, right? I need to take care of whatever my needs and desires are. And education, it has that ability. And one thing that allows people to be successful is if they do what they're good at, if they do what they want to do, and if they do what society wants. You can be very good at something, you can be passionate about it. If society doesn't pay, then you will not be able, you may be becoming very enlightened. However, you will not be able to take care of your general needs. And by the way, some of these needs, they may be very important for the overall quality of life. So again, right, if I look at now this nexus, I certainly think that a lot of people can use AI, and there's various levels. You can be a user of AI, make your life easy. You can be a developer of AI. You can be an architect of AI. I think everyone these days will know how to do AI. Everyone who's graduating from high school has to get a basic understanding of this. And society needs it. That's the trend. Society is going to be using these things. In a sense, if we think back to the 80s, my parents sent me to a typing course. And a lot of people are saying, why? Do you want your son to be a typist? And in those days, typist was a profession. And they said, no, but computers are coming up. So it would be good if he actually knows how to use a machine and type at a reasonable speed. And in those days, when you put typing as a skill on your resume, and I had that early on, it was a plus. These days, what we will do is we look at a resume and we say, where is this big data? Where is this machine learning? Where is the AI? Because when we bring them into whatever job they're doing, we expect them to have some knowledge so they can take things forward. 10 years from now, we will assume people know how to do these things. Right? It'll be just like we expect people to know how to start up a computer. It's no longer a skill that is hard. It'll be an assumed skill. So that's, again, right, we as society, as educators, as parents, have to help our children and the next generation to get that exposure. I think the exposure can be had very easily. The hurdle to get that is not that high anymore. I think if you are in cities, the infrastructure is more than adequate. Most people will have a computer. Most people will have a phone. That's all you need. Rural areas, the hurdle will be higher. And I think this is where government should try to help by getting these kind of tools in the hands of people. Just think about it. Even 20 years ago, the concept of a phone booth existed. And the classical phone booths, the red phone booths in London and England, that's something we saw on TV. These days, you cannot find a payphone anymore. Why? Because everybody assumes you have your own device. And I remember when I started traveling early on in my career, I have all these currencies with me because I need to go make a call in a machine. Now I just make sure I have my cell phone on me, it's charged, and I can travel the world. I can do whatever I want. It's as if the world keeps on clicking 24 hours a day, and I'm always connected. And sometimes people ask me, hey, you're calling me at this time, which country are you in now? So that connectivity is there. And again, it's technology which is allowing us to do that. But similarly, this technology allows me to take my courses if I need to. And Dr. Natarajan and myself, we are enrolled in various other courses together. And I know he takes these sometimes from his home, sometimes from other places. But the technology is there. It's AI, which is really allowing us to do all these things. So I would say AI should not be feared. And why am I saying it should not be feared? It's because people still have this view that it's a machine and it's going to take our jobs. And believe it or not, when we talk about digital transformation, sometimes the questions we get is, okay, you're going to feed it all this information. Am I going to be obsolete? Right? And these are educated people who ask these questions. So it's because of the way science fiction has portrayed it. And you can't blame science fiction. Science fiction is there to make money, right? It's entertainment. But the fear is there that someday, this thing is going to take over. There's going to be a lot of pushback as self-driving cars come. Right? They'll be, it's not safe. This will happen, that will happen, and gradually, it'll be adopted. Same here. You'll see a gradual adoption. But the thing is, people don't realize that they're already big users of AI when they use GPS, when they go to a search engine. I would say a huge part of the population would have used a search engine at some point if they have internet access. People, we have a Roomba robot vacuum. There is a certain amount of machine learning and AI in this. Thermostats. So all these things are there, and it's really the pace is just accelerating at which you see these things. And quite honestly, no matter what you do in terms of your education, whether you're going to become an engineer, a scientist, a doctor, an HR professional, you will be using AI. So you need to have some understanding of it. And with massive open online courses, you can access these things. And now I'm putting a lot of the emphasis on, okay, the student himself or herself should do that, but we should encourage that. As educators, we need to encourage that, and we should leverage those kind of things in the curriculum. We simply can use all these kind of things. I see it in my son's curriculum. They say, okay, you need to go and view this Khan video. And Salman Khan was he started this business online where he was helping, I believe, his niece learn math. And then he realized, okay, she was getting good at it. So he made all these YouTube videos, and now you can subscribe to these things. You have the app. I have the app on my phone, and I tell my son, okay, as part of your studying, did you go through the Khan videos? Did you go through the problems, right? Because you can do the book. I want you to do the book too. So that's the traditional part of me saying, open the book and do that, but also use these other advanced tools. And I think this blended way of learning, it is there to stay. Simply because we still need this human interaction, right? Not everything is going to get answered by the machine. It's actually also very interesting if you look, and I was Googling this the other day, for very traditional disciplines. Now people offer remote classes. They in fact offer classes in Yajurveda chanting, Rigveda chanting, etc. And the other day, I saw a video of one of our common friends in Houston, and he was reciting Samaveda. So I called up his dad. I said, "Where is your son learning?" He said, "Oh, his guru is in Bombay." So you can see again, right? It's technology which is bringing people closer, and frequently now you have these recordings. They'll be there, and you can use the recordings. You can self-test yourself when you do language learning. It's the same thing. There are recordings. You can speak, and it'll tell you, look, you're off here. The intonation isn't right. So AI it's entering every field. And we have to embrace it, and that's how we can really move forward. And again, what I really like about AI and technology is that it levels the playing field for everyone. So you don't need to have all the resources. You don't need to live in a place if you don't want to, or you have to travel to a place to get that knowledge. The knowledge can come straight to you. The only thing is we need to have some starting infrastructure to get that. And I think even there, the cost of getting these is getting lower and lower. And this ultimately helps the whole society move from, I would say, agriculture to industrial to knowledge. It doesn't mean that industrial is not important. It doesn't mean that agriculture is not important. It means that you're integrating these kind of things. Smart farming, for example. It allows you to use the irrigation in a smart way when you need it, where you need it, fertilizers when you need it, where you need it. All of this is AI, and it being brought down to such a level that anyone can use it. So AI is just, I would say, it's going to be the next thing, or it is the next thing that is going to help move whole societies forward and make them competitive. And I'm very excited about that. I'm very happy that education is using these, and I'll see more and more of these things getting incorporated in educational experiences.
Wonderful inputs. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can. Yes.
Yeah, wonderful inputs. In fact, I must compliment you on each and every segment what you have covered. So I go to Dr. Vivek Shankar Narayan first, or should I take on some of the questions which people have posted? What would be convenient?
No, I think Janata Janardhan hai. So let us talk to. When they say Janta, meaning our viewers.
Okay,
so,
okay.
sab kar rahe hai, so we let us listen to them and let us answer their queries.
Okay, okay. So first of all, my deepest gratitudes and thanks. The wonderful inputs which have come from Dr. Krishnan. It was an amazing because this topic is next to my heart, and I always want it because I wish that our education system should get empowered. If we want India to be empowered, that is something very important, because when people are going to pick up proper, formal, need-based, life-based, life-relevant education, then I think the system is going to do better. Now, every country will have their own challenges, okay? Some countries have got a small portion of population. Some countries have got large populations. Now, where there are small countries, it's fine, right? Where the people are aging and other things. So robots can do certain things for them. Artificial intelligence can be used very well. You can switch on your AC, you can switch off, your food can come, your AC can open, your fridge can open, your cookings and other things can be. How about the countries which has got more population? When people say, with due respect, I don't want to give that example, but although it should not hold relevance, but I'm just giving a perspective. I'm giving a perspective.
Of course.
There are so many countries. There's a Miss, Universe show, World Universe fashion show or something, and somebody picking up a, crown from India and all. Basically, it is a department of Dr. Vivek Shankar Natarajan. They are doing marketing because they know that India is a large population. If this person gets pick up, then we are going to put our products over there, consume our products over there, market size is going to increase. Okay, fine. Sometimes we sit on certain platforms, we just say, India has got so many cell phones, we are so many net users, so many digital platforms and all that. It's only by sheer numbers. There's something very big about it. I'm not convinced much onto that. Now coming to third part, the countries which have got a population of a size of, imagine one state of India, Uttar Pradesh. What is the size of that state? What is the population of that state? Okay. When I'm talking about only a particular segment of the middle class of India, that may be the population of a United States when I talk about. Now, when I'm taking those perspectives into consideration, it would be very helpful for certain societies. But what will I do for those people where there's a huge population? Because it is all interrelated questions I'm asking.
Yes.
China has built its own platforms. China doesn't allow Google. China doesn't allow Facebook. China doesn't allow WhatsApp and all. What all is happening within that economy? So what is happening is when you're compelled, when you're pushed against the wall, I'm telling you, the education system would have never, ever moved to this particular stage had Corona not come like a tsunami. And there would have been a crisis. Education, if you ask me, I won't call it becoming more relevant. It has got exposed. Like in the medical terms, it was happening, how many beds you've got, how many ventilators you've got, what hygienic systems you've got, how many other facilities you've got. So there was a spin-off. Similar way in the education system, given a choice, people were not putting in that much of efforts, maybe for a couple of reasons. If I'm a teacher, I'm sympathetic to them. Because if you're less paid, if you're lowest paid, you're not getting any respect also, you're given the last priority. So what do you expect from those people? You can't expect much from them. But whereas if the teachers are better paid, they enjoy the status, they enjoy the hierarchy, they come somewhere and people consider them, then it's okay. But now the whole ecosystem, when I'm taking into consideration, colleges, universities, and institution challenges, student must come back as soon as possible because they are losing revenue. Okay. And if some other pandemic, some other problem comes back again, at least we have been given a jolt and we have been given a kind of a shake that, look, you got to wake up. It was a wake up call. Let's be very frank about it. It was to take us out of the lethargic. But now, what do I do with the huge population where I've got a couple of challenges? Number one, my children are not skilled. All of them are not educated. Education is one concern. Skill is another concern. From skill to competency is my another concern. And world over, and particularly India, if I talk about, if I do not have that many jobs, but the children which are churned out from the education ecosystem, those are coming out, they'll demand something. Their parents would expect something from them. Those children will get frustrated. And further jobs are going to shrink. Let's be very frank about it. When artificial intelligence, and today you have given a beautiful word, I'm going to use it. You have told augmenting intelligence. You say, why to call it in artificial intelligence? Why not to call augmenting intelligence? Okay, it's a good keyword which you have given. I take it in a very positive way. But my challenge is, what do I do? My people are not that skilled. My people are not that educated. Chunk of them is coming out. That many jobs are not available. So what is the solution? And artificial intelligence, if I don't adopt, then also is a problem. If I adopt, and how much do I adopt? That is also to be seen.
Correct.
What quantity to be taken? Yeah.
So,
please.
Allow me to react, and these
Sure,
are just my musings, I would say.
Sure.
So I think what you are describing is very similar to this movie VIP, Vela Patadari, right? So is a degree holder
I've not
without
seen.
a
I will
job.
see now. VIP movie.
and
Okay.
and this is it is a real problem, right? Because as society, we push, we sacrifice, we try to get our children educated, and then they graduate and then there is no job waiting for them, right? This is a big problem, right? And then we can ask ourselves, okay, did we push them all into one direction where there's no jobs, right? And on the one hand, I would say yes, information knowledge is where the future is. On the other hand, what are the basic needs for a society? Basic needs for a society is food. If there is no food, society, it withers and it falls apart. If there is no education, everything falls apart, obviously. If there is no healthcare, it falls apart. So you can look at what is at the bottom of the pyramid, or top of the pyramid, however you want to define it. What drives a society, and where is there always, I would say, a guarantee of something. Now, having said that, right, I think maybe sometimes we, as a society, we don't give the right emphasis to certain jobs, right? The teacher should actually be given the appropriate respect, right? It is Mata Pita Guru Devam, right? That is the saying. And then, of course, always arguments, should you go Mata Pita or should it come from the bottom? It doesn't matter. They're all close to the top, right? It doesn't really matter. So if we don't give respect to the teachers, if the teachers don't get paid, what incentive is there for them to actually put in that extra effort? And I think it is a key problem. If we underpay our educators, how can we expect our society to have educated people who can then do something? If you don't pay an elementary school teacher properly, the foundation, people will not know how to read or write. It is gone. So that is one thing, right? So I think that there has to be a societal understanding that certain things are important for the survival of the society. Otherwise, society will just fall apart. The badge of honor should not be, oh, I educated my kids and then they left and then they settled abroad. How is that a badge of honor, right? Or okay, they left their traditional professions, whatever they were doing, but because of lack of respect of that profession, they went and did something else where they can just make more money. You can, honestly, you can't even argue with it, because if they're able to provide for the families, how can you say you need to go do this thing because society needs it, right? If society needs it, society has to pay for it. And I think these kind of jolts are always important, because now you see, because of Corona, it's a jolt. You see that suddenly society as a whole globally is lacking certain things, and there needs to be this understanding, okay, we need to do certain things certain way, otherwise we just can't move forward. Now, getting the point of population, right? You're absolutely right, but this gets to the normal fear, right? Okay, we have a new technology coming. Let's say the steam engine came, okay? Steam engine came and machines came, and then people say, look, I'm going to be out of a job, I want to stop it, I'm going to break the steam engines, because I'd rather be employed where I can move the goods, right, if that's what you're doing, right, by horseback or whatever. Now the thing is, economics will favor, right? In that case, it favored the steam engine because you could do things faster and quicker. There is a transition now in terms of what kind of jobs people need and what they will be doing. Because on the one hand, you bring in certain systems, right? And I'm saying it very, very general. You bring in AI, you will not need 5 people to do something, right? And honestly, these are the same discussions we have within the company, saying, okay, I'm bringing these tools now. Is this an efficiency play or is this a productivity play? What is it? Efficiency play is, by the way, simply euphemism for saying I need less people, right? That's what it means. Productivity is, so I do the same amount of work with less people. That's efficiency. Productivity is saying I do more work now with the same number of people. So if I can use, and I think we always have to look at it from the right perspective, right? Which is, okay, I'm going to try to make myself more productive. I don't have to spend 5 hours on this. I can spend 2 hours. So 5 minus 2, I have 3 hours now to spare. What do I do with those 3 hours? I can do different things within the framework of my job. That is one option. Another option is, so I can be more productive, right, as an employee. Another one maybe is like, look, if that's not there, what some point people have to be upskilling themselves, because you suddenly have certain jobs are getting more efficient. You need less people, less effort for it. Just imagine, right? If I use a computer to do calculation, I don't need to go back to 1940s technology where I need 50 people sitting in a room in a grid to solve an equation, right? Where they'll call out a number and the next person says, okay, +1, -1, all those kind of things. I don't need 50 people. I can do it on a calculator. I can do it in one person. However, now I need more people to think about these different kind of knowledge-based jobs. So again, it's actually pulling me back to education and saying, look, I need to now upskill myself so I can do more and different things. And the nature of jobs, it changes. If you think about it, one of the things one of my professors once told us in class was, what really allowed a lot of people to enter the workforce in the early 1900s was the invention of vacuum cleaner, washing machine, because then suddenly you don't need, and this was from a US-centric perspective, suddenly you don't need to be spending all your time on that. So because now it doesn't take 2-3 hours to go and do all these activities, you can do it very rapidly. Now you can go and do something else. You can do a different kind of activity. So you're shifting what you are doing to something else. And I'm a firm believer that people can do practically anything. No matter what age, you have the ability to learn. And you can learn different skills and learn different things. Especially now, if we're talking about education, we're talking about the young generation. Young generation is like a sponge. You give them certain knowledge, they will absorb it, and you can train them to be valuable in a knowledge-based economy. Now, having said that, getting to the question or the situation you pose, okay, China has its own internal systems. Okay, now this is a little bit more of a political question, so I'll just provide some perspectives. This is, of course, one way is to say you build a wall around your whole country, and then you say I have my internal market, and I can deal with that, and then I'm insulated. That's one option. Another option is saying, okay, what do I as an internal market need, and what does the whole world need? How can I position myself? And again, I think there is so much that India or a high population area can do for the rest of the world in terms of bringing knowledge-based economy, making things more effective, more efficient. Simultaneously, of course, if you're a large population country, there will be a mix, right? Because if you are 90% or 25% of the world's population, then probably you have a lot of sway in terms of demand even for certain other things. So that should in itself be able to create the kind of jobs. Now, if there is maybe a mismatch in terms of graduates and jobs, it's maybe because we are pushing certain disciplines too much. And I would say that if we apply a lot of this AI and knowledge into basic necessities, food, water, and food and water are a big problem, to be quite honest. We don't have enough farmers. Farmers' life is hard. But if you can make their life easier with AI, and if you have people really pushing toward that, and honestly, companies, they are looking at that. They're looking at what's called smart farming. How do you roll out smart farming? That is a challenge. And that's where the opportunities are. How do you make water available to everyone? What kind of technologies do you need to bring to bear to that? It may not sound appealing because it is so basic, but societies have disappeared because of lack of water.
Yes, there was a very important input last week from someone, one of the professor who had come. He made a mention three things: oxygen, water, and food. He
Yes.
says you can't live without oxygen more than 1 minute. You can't live without water more than 1 week, and you can't live without food for more than 1 month. There was a beautiful chronology which he developed, and the entire study he gave. But still, my challenge, it's quite a bit, because correspondingly, it's not going to match. Challenges are going to be huge, because the steam engine, which the example which you have given, that time the speed and scale to be taken into consideration, and technology, the way it is coming, nighttime you sleep, and in the morning when you get up, there's something new. It's
Mhm.
changing so fast. The speed has caught on,
Yes.
because there's a beautiful video, Nightmare for Universities. It is worth seeing.
Hmm.
It is coming from United States. There's a gentleman called Edutainment or something like that. His
Okay.
video is there. It's mind blowing. He says there is now there's now so much going on between university colleges and the corporate world, because universities and colleges are teaching still which is obsolete, which is obsolescent, and which is not going to be applicable by the time the children will pass out from schools, colleges, and universities.
Mhm.
And the corporate world speed has caught on. So they are telling, if McDonald, the person who is working in the factory or in the company or in the front line, he or she knows what are the ingredients of the burger which has to be given to the customer. Then to give a theoretical knowledge in the classroom, this is burger, it looks like this, you put this ingredients, you pack like this. So they say, why do we need that? We got to take it. So uh, the demand and supply is not matching, and it is going to further widen. In a country like India, our challenges are going to be huge. I'm anticipating this, because I look at it now. The Rajiv Malhotra's theory, the book which he has come out with, Artificial Intelligence and Future Power, where he has given 5 battlefields, and he's talking about. So there, that question, that's why I came to my mind, and I thought I should share
Mhm.
with you. He says that if you take it, India has already missed the boat. More than 10 years we are behind, and
Hmm.
we got to run faster if we want to catch up in AI. But then my challenge is, and my concern is, we cannot take one side of the coin. We got to take the whole country, whole economy, because one side you used a very powerful word in between. The hurdles are going to be more in rural areas. That was the word which you used.
Yes.
And India's still in rural, in the villages. My challenge is going to be there. Now, if I take it from this perspective, during Corona, people walked to their respective villages. They have gone back to their rural interiors. Now, if they have gone back over there, if we develop the ecosystem there itself, then you will reduce the pressure in the cities,
Correct.
because Bangalore is going to run out of water. Chennai is going to run out of water. Punjab already is going to be into the deep crisis. The water level is going down, and so is the case for many other cities in India. So I personally look at it, education, what kind of an education? Okay. How do you look at when 30 million people have already decided post corona that there should be home education? Why to send
Mhm.
children to schools?
Mhm.
Why to send children to institutions?
Yeah.
That is another concern.
And I think, see, the fact that so many people have gone back to rural areas, in a sense, this is something that can be used to the advantage, as you said,
Build
right?
infrastructure there,
Build
pro-
infrastructure there, and this
provide them
has
the
to be
things over
done.
there. Dr. Krishnan, there was some very good thought. We have lost one person in India. He was the defense minister, Parikar. He was an engineer, the Goa chief minister.
Hmm.
Dr. Parikar, and that time Nirmala Sitaramji was the commerce and industry minister. Our chamber had worked on the project. It was beautifully coming up at that point of time. I do not know, it didn't see the daylight. Jetli ji was also very keen. We lost that soul also. We had developed the idea that India has got X number of railway stations. Only few railway stations are there where the trains stop during the day. There are some of the railway stations near villages where not more than one train stops in the entire day. Now the platform of those railway stations can be utilized for skill development in those rural interior areas.
Yes.
And a lot of defense officers are retiring, a lot of teachers are retiring, a lot of principals are retiring, a lot of technocrats, because of the age, they are coming back to the village. They can be the resource person, and railway network is the only one network where the Wi-Fi doesn't fail, where the electricity doesn't fail. So there is a built-up infrastructure to utilize the railway station platforms basically for skill development project. It was there, it didn't see the daylight, but it was coming that time in a very right direction. So what I'm sharing with you is challenges are huge. Now, a couple of questions which audience has given. Can I take 3-4 of them if you permit?
No, absolutely, please.
Okay. Now there's a question from one of the leading senior coach like a Khan Academy, and she says, could you please throw some light on how can AI empower teachers and mentors?
So AI, right? So it is simply, again, it's simply mathematics, right? So you can use the AI to do a couple of things. One is it can help you in the grading, right? And I've seen that now. So in some of the courses I have now, I submit code, and it grades it. It tells me what is being done right and what is done wrong. So some of these mundane tasks, right, of AI, that AI can help you with, like grading papers, because that is a huge overhead. I remember when I was in school, we would write a question paper, and then it would take weeks for the results to come back. But AI can help with grading if it's computer based, and don't forget, AI can also do handwriting recognition, right? So it can help with that, and it can maybe, if sometimes half the problem was the teachers wouldn't understand what on earth we wrote on the paper, right? So it can help with these kind of things. So it is just viewed as extra hands and extra eyes to look at the work. And then as the primary educator, you can look and say, okay, this, I agree with what the program is telling me, or I don't agree. And I'm seeing it also now with my son's education. They submit their work, they get an initial grade, and then the teacher reviews it, goes over it very quickly to see, okay, this is where the AI made a mistake in grading it, because the symbol that they use square root, maybe they made a typo there. It didn't understand it, but yes, the student actually had the right intent. So that's certainly where it can help. And there's many other things in terms of virtual simulation. You can just imagine if you're in biology class or a history class, and you can get sort of this immersive experience of what is going on in a certain time period, that really allows the student to do. But I mean, these are huge topics that you can actually delve into, how you can use augmented reality, right? It's
yes,
all these things are there.
I think there are a couple of questions, as I mentioned. There's another lady from Imphal, Manipur in Northeast. She's writing, Julie Subba, artificial intelligence poised to become a transformational force in healthcare. How will providers and patients benefit from the impact of AI-driven tools in India?
Okay, so even now, I think even before Corona, it was not, I'd say, unknown that you would go to, and I'll just speak from a US perspective, you would go to a radiologist here, and then, or you'd go to a place here. I wouldn't call it a radiologist. You go to a place here where they do the radiology, they take the picture, and the picture gets sent electronically to doctors in India. The doctors in India look at it, give an opinion. It goes back, and then it gets reviewed by yet another doctor in US. Now what you can do is, look, you can have some of these tools, and the tools, where the tool resides, it doesn't matter. But the tool can basically come up with a preliminary diagnosis, prognosis, right? So a lot of these things, if you think about how does a doctor work, or how it's about pattern recognition, and pattern recognition is another branch of AI, right? So You see these 5 things happening. Okay, there's a high probability. Then this is the cause of the illness or whatever it may be. So that's where it can be used. It can be used in a very, very tactical fashion. So you don't have to go through all of these things, and it can also tell you very rapidly there's something called abnormal event detection, and we use it in processes. But it's the same thing. You can use it in healthcare. You can see the heart rate or it follows a certain pattern, and now it's looking slightly off. Okay, and then based on the vast data that has been analyzed, okay, this can mean a certain probability. This happened, that happened, this happened. So you can actually get to the patient and then have an expert doctor actually look at it and say, okay, we need to start certain medication right now, rather than after the fact, after a person has had maybe a heart attack.
Okay, thank you. There's a girl called Kritika. She's writing. She's a law student. So law people, one got to be really fearful before making any statement, but I will take it. She's writing, Indian education system still gives more priority to rote learning than to research and technology friendly learning. We need to change our approach, and I support Dr. Krishnan views.
Oh, thank you.
So that goes. Wonderful session, really contributing. And such courses will truly help the poor, as in COVID situation, they have been hit really hard. They also deserve an access to technology as well in rural areas. That's the another one she's writing. I believe very soon our whole life will be controlled by artificial intelligence. What we see in movies is soon coming to be seen in reality. Is it so, Dr. Krishnan?
I don't think so. I think you let things control what you want. I think, and I'll be honest, when I go outside for walks, I see people walking outside like this, right? They're just looking at their phone constantly. So I think they're already being controlled by their phone.
There's another lady, Vidhi Kishore. She's writing, we need technology in every classroom and in every student and every teacher's hand, because it is the pen and the paper of our time, and it is the lens through which we experience much of our world today. So this younger generation is totally supportive of everything going. My challenge is only my population. My challenge is my rural areas. My challenge is my village economy. My challenge is the basic necessities and the needs to be given.
Absolutely.
And, the triangle which has to be drawn is, if I use agriculture to uplift my agriculture and my health and my education, that golden triangle, if we draw, I think that would be something remarkable and something feasible.
Absolutely.
What would be the final word from your side?
I think the final word would be, one is AI is coming. It will transform our lives, and it's going to go in jolts. And I think we got one jolt now with Corona. And I think we need to use AI to our advantage, and we should not fear AI. We have to take it in stride. I think for the younger generation, this is extremely easy. The young generation always, by definition, takes more risk, is more tech savvy. And I would say use it in the areas that are of benefit to society. Right? So this gets back to the triangle, right? Water, oxygen,
and food.
Food, right? If you don't have that, society is gone.
Yes. Yes. Because oxygen is first, water is 2, and food is 3. So that part already we are talking about. Was that a practical example, or you were just giving me the idea that algorithm or whatever was developed in the marks obtaining and everything, and
No, it's
calculation?
real. It's real.
It's real. Okay.
It's real.
So
it's already being used. Because I was a little shocked when my son showed me that. I said, how can they grade it within 1 minute? Are they up at this time? And he said, yeah, it's automatically graded.
Can you suggest any application for auto grading? Is there anything available? Any app or any?
I think these are standard things. I can maybe offline. I can send you some information.
Okay.
On
Very kind of you. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to take, And this is an appetizer from your side today. Let me tell you, this is just the appetizer. I'm very hungry because artificial intelligence and augmenting, and your complete profile, when I go through, I would say there's so much of details. There's so much to pick up and so much to learn from you. Because yesterday when I loaded, the downloaded information from there, I would say it was so much to pick up from there and so much to learn from there. And I was thinking all the time, how do I do justice with that? I think you have done so much in this particular area, the field of technology, that something we got to pick up later once again with you. From my side, deep gratitude and thanks, and wonderful to have you this morning. Thanks for sparing your most valuable time and your early morning, and you're starting your day with us. And I hand over to Dr. Vivek Shankar Natarajan ji.
Again, it was a fascinating session. It was very interesting to see how Dr. Krishnan kind of flipped the idea that it is not artificial intelligence on its head, but it's actually augmented intelligence. Because what it really means is you need, as I say, this is said about. I'm an electrical engineer by training, so there's always this adage about electricity. It's a good servant but a poor master. I would say the same can be applied to AI. It is a good servant and it's a poor master. So which means we have to control it. And so that's why I like the definition of it being augmented reality. In other words, it augments my reality or the human's intelligence. It is not a replacement. It is not a supplement. It is a complement. So in other words, it superimposes itself on what I'm doing and helps me free up my tasks for higher order tasks. So I automate routine stuff. Previously, what was the Industrial Revolution? It was freeing up my hands so that my brain can be free for thinking. Now, AI is taking you to the next level, which is freeing a little bit of those gray cells so that you can focus it on higher level tasks, very creative tasks, maybe like writing great poetry or doing sculpting, creating masterpieces, or actually, thinking about higher order issues, which is what we need. So to that extent, I think we need that was very, very very useful to me. The other thing is this idea that AI is a zero-sum game. We are going to lose jobs. Sure, that is there. But remember, when people also move into more higher order thinking, there is also possibilities of new jobs getting created. But I recognize the fact that, yes, a lot of job losses will happen and we need societal structure to kind of, bring it up to speed. And, we need to make sure we have mechanisms, social safety nets to make sure people who lose jobs are retrained, and it has to be done. You can't just flip a switch. For example, now this development is happening in the US. A lot of pipeline jobs have been lost, and people are, some folks were saying, hey, they could do solar panels. It doesn't happen that way. You can't just flip a switch and you can move from one job to another. There has to be a human consideration. This has to be thought through. You have to give a lot of incentives. That's where education sectors start to play a big role, where they retrain people. In fact, now, in any education institution, when we talk about it, we are saying this is a place for lifelong learning. So it's not like, as Dr. Krishnan was saying, you move, take a degree and get out. It's not like that. This is more like a license card. You have to come back and renew it. So there's lifelong learning. And so that is how universities are reinventing themselves, will have to reinvent themselves. And we have to become lifelong learners. Dr. Krishnan himself is an exemplar of that. I mean, he said that even I'm also always invested in more time I spend on YouTube than sometimes when reading books, because I'm always trying to understand. I subscribe to MIT Open Courseware, Cornell. I'm enrolled in the Cornell campus and all that, and Harvard webinars. I mean, keep watching all of them, so to see if there is anything we can take away. So that lifelong is there. And I think we had a very fascinating discussion. As I said, we need to build upon all of this in our educational policy, in our educational institutions. So I'm very grateful to Krishnan ji. I know this last week was tough for him as much as it was tough for us. all of us have now become lifelong. We started suddenly upskilling ourselves in the areas of plumbing, in the areas of how do you set up home fires. So we have to, I mean, remember, sometimes you need to come back to your roti kapda makan. How can you make rotis on a wood stove? How can you go without, how long can you wear something if water is not there? All that skills are important. So lifelong learning doesn't mean you go and sit in front of YouTube. How do you learn from nature? All that is important. So a lot of things I learned personally when you have a crisis too. So, but I think it was I'm very grateful to Krishnanji. As I said, one of these days we also have to work with Krishnanji's wife, very talented wife. She is into the human side of things, HR, Aishwarya ji. So maybe next week we can try working with her, because this is next week will be as he said, it is all Women's Week, so to speak. So with that, thank you, Gulshan ji. Thank you, Krishnanji, for making this morning a very bright morning, a very interesting morning, augmenting morning, if you will.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Natarajan and Dr. Sharma, for the opportunity. I thoroughly enjoyed the discussion and the opportunity to share some of my experience.
Thank you very much once again. And Dr. Vivek Shankar ji, you have forgotten today very important thing. You didn't start the session with the prayer, and you're not finishing this session with the prayer.
No, I'll just finish with a prayer. Since, our Krishnanji, Sarve Bhavantu Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhave. That is our prayer. May everybody be happy. And
Thank you.
A prayer that is universal, whether we do it with AI or augmented, whatever it is, the goal of human is Anandam. And happy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, like Mr. Dhoni, he got the territorial army rank, and similar way Virat Kohli. So any decorated soldiers, they get territorial army rank in Indian Army in India. So the last 1 week, what you have faced, the challenges in the Houston, in the Texas, that was basically to prepare you, because before you become the Army commissioned officer, you are given only 1 water bottle and 1 kg food, and you have to survive for 10 days in a forest with that. So you have done a jungle warfare, and you are a now commissioned officer, ready to be joining territorial army.
Professor, Dr. Sharma, it is interesting how much you can do with 1 liter of water. Yes. 1 gallon of water to me on that day was worth 1 gallon of liquid.
It happens. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
God bless and wish